Hey guys, this is Eric Vasquez here with a brand new tutorial for you today from designcuts.com. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to create a menu design for the Last Stand coffee shop and bakery in Photoshop. To do this, we'll be using the Buckwheat Typeface from the Supreme Quality Font Bundle. This all-new bundle is a collection of some of the best fonts ever created. Here you'll find a wide and eclectic variety of typefaces from artists such as Chalky, Set Sail Studios, Fenotype, and many more. If you're all ready to get started, then fire up Photoshop and let's jump in. The first thing we want to do here is make sure that our new document is set up as 8.5 by 11 inches. Now we can leave the resolution at 300, the color mode can be set to RGB, and you can leave the background content set to white. Now before we click create, let's just go ahead and give our document a name. Here I'm going to call mine the Last Stand Menu Design, and then go ahead and press return or click create to make your new document. Now the first thing we're going to do once we jump in here is add a new solid color adjustment layer, and let's go ahead and enter the hex value 11212A, which is this nice kind of navy blue color. Now once you've done that, we can just select the background layer from below and delete it, because this adjustment layer is going to be our new background layer. So while we're at it, we might as well just go ahead and press Command-Control-G, put this into a group folder, double-click the Group 1 text, and rename the folder BG. Now let's go ahead and add a new layer, and then I'm going to come up here to the Window menu and choose Character to bring up my character panel, and I'll just slide that over here for a second. Now I'm going to press D on the keyboard to reset my default colors, and then X so that I have a solid white foreground color. And you'll notice that as I do that, it's actually updating the color here over in the character panel. So if I press X on the keyboard to toggle between the foreground and background, you can see that it's updated here as well. So now let's press T to get our type tool, and I'm going to click somewhere up here towards the top of the canvas, and I'm just going to type out the words Last Stand in all caps. Okay, now once I've done that, I'm going to click and drag to highlight the text, or you can just press Command-Control-A. And over here in the character panel, we want to change up the font. So for this tutorial, I will be using the Buckwheat typeface, as I mentioned, designed by Chalky. And you guys can get this typeface along with many other beautiful typefaces in the full bundle. However, I just want to mention now that if you guys still want to follow along with this and you don't have this typeface, I've recommended a couple of nice free fonts that you guys can download to follow along. So just be sure to check out the written portion of the tutorial for those links. Alright, and now once you guys download those, you can use those recommended fonts to follow along here. So for now, I'm just going to be using Buckwheat TC, but instead of the sans version for this, I want to use the regular rough style. Okay, and then I'm going to change the size of my text to about 133.5. Alright, now I'll grab my move tool and just slide this down over here in the center. And it's looking pretty cool, but one thing I'm noticing here is that the letters are spaced kind of far apart. I want to tighten this up just a little bit, so I'm going to use my cursor here, click in between the letters, and then hold the Alt-Option key and tap the left arrow maybe 2 times in between each of the characters to reduce the amount of space. Now in between the words, maybe I'll do 4 or 5 times, but then between each of the characters, again, hold Alt-Option and tap the left arrow twice. Now if I tap the right arrow, it'll add space back. Okay, so we're just going to manually adjust the kerning like that. Now I'm going to press Command-Control-T to do a free transform and just slide it over to the right a bit until it snaps into place to make sure that our text is nice and centered. Now go ahead and add another new layer, grab your type tool again, and this time we're going to type out the word the. Make the T capital and the other 2 letters can be lowercase. Now here I'm going to change the typeface from Buckwheat TC regular to the Buckwheat TC script rough style, okay? And again, I've recommended some nice script typefaces that are free to download that are pretty similar to this, so be sure to check out the written portion for those links so that you guys can download it and follow along if you don't have the Buckwheat typeface available to you. Now, what we're going to do here is change the size of this text to about 64 point in the character panel, and let's go ahead and change the color as well. What I want to enter here is the hex value CDA767, which is this nice tan color. Then go ahead and click OK. grab the Move tool, and I'm just going to place this up here just to the left of the last stand. All right, something like that looks pretty good. And now what I want to do is press Command-Control-T to do a free transform. I can zoom in a little bit here, hold spacebar to get the hand and drag over so I can see what we're doing. Hold the Control key and click inside of this text box here. And now we're going to choose Skew. Now for this, we're just going to click over to the right side here and slide it up a bit, maybe until around 8 to 10 degrees, maybe about 9 degrees, and then press Return on the keyboard. Okay, so that looks pretty cool, like that. In this way, we add a little bit of, visual interest. It makes it a little bit more dynamic instead of just having it go, straight across in a single line, in a single straight line, I should say. All right, now let's go ahead and add another new layer. Grab the Type tool once again, and then this time we're going to type out our tagline, Coffee Shop ampersand Bakery. Now, obviously, this script typeface is a little bit hard to read in all caps like this, so I'm going to click a few times to highlight the text, and let's go ahead and change this to Buckwheat Sans Rough. All right, and I'll come over here to my character panel once again, change the size to 21 point, and now I'm going to also go ahead and change the tracking setting in here to about 44.04. to space out the letters. Now let's go ahead and click on the color swatch here, and I'll change the fill color to 75C898, which is this nice kind of seafoam green color. Something like that looks pretty good. And now I can kind of slide this under here. So, sorry, I actually messed up the tracking. I don't want to change it to 44. I actually want 440. That's what I was looking for. All right, now once you've done that, grab your Type tool and just highlight this ampersand in here. Now click on the fill color once again, and we're going to change it to our tan color, which was, if you remember, CDA767. All right, so that way we can kind of establish our color palette early on. All right, maybe tap that up a couple of times. That's looking pretty good. Add another new layer, grab your Type tool, and type out a uppercase I. Okay, now highlight the text, and we're going to change this back to the Buckwheat TC Rough font, whichever font you use for the last stand text up here. Now, once you've done that, we want to also go ahead and change the fill color of this layer to the same hex value as our tan color, which was CDA767. Go ahead and click OK. And now we can make this also a bit larger. So let's go ahead and highlight this letter. And then we can use our character panel here to bump up the size maybe to about 44 point. Okay, and then we'll press Command-Control-T to do a free transform, hold the Control key and click on the letter and choose Rotate 90 degrees clockwise. Now once you've done that, you can move your cursor over the right side of the bounding box and we're going to stretch it out. Now as we stretch it out, also hold down the Alt-Option key and that's going to stretch it in both directions evenly. Okay, so we're going to go pretty far, somewhere about there. And now let's do it again, except this time we'll make it just a little bit taller. So stretch it down just while holding the Control key this time. And now we're going to tap it up while holding the Shift key. All right, bump it up underneath the tagline here. Bump it over to the right just a little bit. We want it to go off of the side there. Now let's just bring it back in a little bit because it looks a little bit too stretched. Now what I'm going to do is press Command-Control-J to duplicate this layer, Command-Control-T to do a free transform. Click, hold the Shift key, and slide this over just a bit to extend that border. Now once you've done that, it may not go all the way across, but that's okay. We're going to select that top layer, hold Shift and select the original copy below, and then press Command-Control-E to merge them together. Now press Command-Control-J to duplicate that, Command-Control-T to do a free transform, click, hold the Shift key, and slide this copy all the way over to the right. Okay, so you should now have a border running all the way across. Now once again, select the top copy, hold Shift and select the copy just below, and press Command-Control-E once again to merge the two layers together. Double click over here in the layer name and change it to Divider 1. Alright, and then while we're at it, hold the Command-Control key and tap the left bracket a couple of times just to move that down below the text so that it's in the order in which it appears. Now I'll select my top text layer here, hold the Shift key and select the third text layer. So you should have all of these text layers selected together. Press Command-Control-G to put it into a group folder, double-click the Group 1 text, and call this folder TT for title treatment. Now before I go on, I just want to remind you guys to be sure to save your work anywhere you want, just to make sure that you don't lose anything in case anything weird happens to Photoshop. Just kind of a good practice to do. And now let's move on and we can begin adding our next section to the menu. Let's add another new layer. Press T on the keyboard, and this time I'm going to type out the words hot beverages, then press Command-Control-A to select the line. Come over here in your character panel, and let's go ahead and change it back to Buckwheat TC Rough. Now I'm going to change the tracking setting here back to 0, and then I will change the size to be about 44 point, I think. And we can leave it set to solid white, although what I want to do now is select just the word beverages, click on the color swatch over here in the character panel, and now we can go ahead and change the hex value of that layer to 75C898 to get our seafoam green color, and then click OK. Now click on the Move tool up here on the top of the toolbar, and then zoom in a little bit. Press T to get your type tool, and let's do the same thing. I just want to decrease the amount of space in between some of these characters, which you can do again by just clicking in, using the left and right arrows to move your cursor between the characters you'd like to adjust, and then hold the Alt Option key and tap the left arrow to decrease the space or the right arrow to add space. In this case, we're just going to be decreasing the space, so I'm going to use Alt Option and the left arrow just to move some of these letters closer together. All right, something like that looks pretty good. And now let's go ahead and add another new layer. Press T once again, click, and this time we will type out the text we want to read: small 8 ounce, medium 12 ounce. So we have our sizes. Okay, let's just move that over here for a second. Press Command-Control-A, and now we'll go ahead and change this to, let's go back to Buckwheat TC Sounds Rough. Okay, and this time I'll make the text quite a bit smaller. We don't want it to be that big. We can make it about 8.75. And we'll go ahead and change the fill color to CDA 767. Okay, now I'll grab my Move tool again, and I'm just going to hold the Shift key and tap this up and over so that it's left justified with the hot beverages text. All right. This time just press Command-Control-J to duplicate that layer, hold the Shift key and tap it down a few times, and then we can just turn that layer off for a second. Go ahead and add another new layer, press T on the keyboard, and this time we're going to type out cafe. Oh, let's get the accent over the E here. So the way to do that is to hold the Alt Option key, type E, and then type E again to get that accent mark. And we're going to type out cafe latte. I actually want it to be lowercase though. Cafe latte. Press Command-Control-A. Come over here to your character panel, and this time let's go to our script rough. All right, we'll go ahead and change the color of this layer to the nice seafoam green color, so 75C898. Click OK. And then over here in the character panel, we're going to go ahead and make this about 29 1/4, 29.25. Okay, and that looks pretty good. So let's also come over here, and I want to adjust the line spacing. So this setting right here, the leading rather, we can come in here and we're going to change that a bit to 29.25. And then let's go ahead and make the size a little bit smaller. We'll make that 20.67 or so. All right, and that's a little bit better. Now I'm going to hold the Shift key and just tap this up a little bit, maybe over to the left. And if you want to make sure that all 3 of these lines of text are left justified, the way to do that is to select the top one, hold Shift, select the bottom one that you want to include, and then in the top toolbar here you can choose the Align Left Edges. All right, and that's just going to make everything flush left. Now from here what we can do is turn back on the visibility of that text layer we used before, and I'm going to tap it up a few times just to align the bottom edge with the bottom edge of Cafe Latte. All right, now I'm holding the Shift key and tapping it over to the right, and I can now click a few times inside to highlight this text. And what I want to do next is open up the paragraph panel. So if you guys don't see that, it's under the window menu. Go to Window, Paragraph. And all we're going to do here is choose this option to make it right align the text. All right, and you guys will see why we're doing this in just a moment. So now I'm going to hold Shift and the right arrow to bring this back over towards the right edge. And now what I can do is select the text with my type tool, come over to the character panel, and I'll make this about 11 point using the same typeface. But now we're going to change the color from tan to our nice green color, so 75C898. Okay, and this is where we're going to put the price. So here what I'm going to do is type out a couple of periods just to get like a nice dotted line, and then I'm going to type 3:50/4:50. So those two prices represent the small and the medium size. And now, because our text is right justified, we can just add or remove periods until it looks like it's going all the way across in a straight line. Okay, so you've got that first line there, cafe latte, the small is 350, the medium is 450. Okay, so now let's go ahead and select that cafe latte layer, press T to get your type tool, and let's go ahead and just put our cursor at the end of the E here, and then press return. Now for our second item here, we're going to type out cappuccino, press return again, type out Americano, press return again, and we'll type out espresso. Now, the reason we're getting these items nice and spaced out like this is because we had adjusted the leading up here in the character panel. So by adjusting that, we're able to add a nice bit of space in between the lines. So let's pay attention to this value really quick. It's 29.25. Okay, so if I click on my move tool to deselect the text, now come over here to this price line, I'll call it the price list or the price line, click inside to highlight the text, and let's go ahead and enter that same value here for the leading. So it was 29.25. This way, when we add more lines, it's going to align perfectly with the menu item that it's across from. Okay, so for these other items, let's go ahead and hold down the period key a little bit, then we'll type 395/495. Okay, and you can see that we need to add maybe one or two more periods here, but because our text is flush right, it's really easy to just add or remove a few while still retaining that nice flush edge on the right side. Press return again, and we'll go ahead and do the same price for the Americano. We'll do $3.95 for the small and $4.95 for the medium. Okay, and then we'll add our fourth price here for the espresso. And for this, we'll go a little bit more. We'll go 450/550. All right, and then again, you can see that we need to add a few more periods here just to make it look like it's going all the way across. And that looks pretty good. So now that we have this group set up here, what we want to do is select all of them, and we can rearrange these layers a little bit. We want to select this whole block of text here, put it into a new group folder, double-click the Group 1 text, and call this Hot Beverages. Now just expand that folder for a second because I just want to reorder these layers. I want hot beverages to be on top. Then the items can come after the small and medium text. And then lastly, we'll end with the prices. So it just kind of makes sense that the layers are in the same order as the text over here. Okay, now let's select that hot beverages folder, press Command-Control-J to duplicate the entire thing, and then Command-Control in the left bracket to move it below the original folder. Now press Command-Control-T to do a free transform, click, hold the Shift key, and slide this entire group over towards the right side. Now if you need to drag over to the right so you can see a bit better, just use the spacebar to grab the hand tool. Now once it's slid over here and lines up with the right edge of the title treatment, press return on the keyboard to apply the changes. Now because we have this section set up, we basically just need to change a few things. So let's just rename this folder Cold Beverages. Click inside here and we can make some more adjustments. So instead of hot beverages, we'll change it to cold. All right, we're going to reduce the amount of space in between the characters here. And we can leave the small and medium to the same size. But I'm going to turn off the prices for just a second so that we can update this list of items here. So first let's change this to iced cafe latte. We will make the second item a regular iced coffee. Okay, we can make our third one an iced cappuccino. And you'll notice that I'm just using upper and lowercase for these items because generally it's a little bit easier to read these script typefaces in upper and lowercase instead of all caps like you saw earlier. Now for this last one, I'll just go ahead and add the Nitro Coffee, which has become pretty popular. It's quite tasty, a little bit like a Guinness. All right, and then what we want to do from here is turn the prices back on. Okay, and so now we can go ahead and update some of these prices. I'll leave this first one as is, maybe change the second one to $2.95 and then $3.95. The second one we can leave as is, and then let's make the last one maybe $3.95 and $4.95. All right, just to mix it up a little bit. We don't want all the prices to be the same, but you can see that when I change that, because the length of each of these words and menu items is different, we do need to just remove a few periods here on the last line, remove a few periods from the iced cappuccino line, maybe remove one from the iced coffee, and then remove a couple from the first line there, so that you end up with something like that. But now that I'm looking at this, I'm realizing that this no longer lines up with the right side of the word stand. So what I actually can do here is press Command-Control-R to get my rulers. And now over here on the left side, I can just click and drag to bring out a guide and maybe snap it to the right edge of the D in the last stand. And that way we can see exactly where we need this text to go to line up. So here I can grab the entire cold beverages folder, hold the Shift key, and then tap the left arrow maybe 5 or 6 times until the S lines up with our guide. Now that we know where we need to be, we can come in here back to our prices, and what we can do is grab that whole layer, hold the Shift key, tap the right arrow, okay, until that lines up as well. And now we can go ahead and add a few more periods here to each of these lines. All right, but again, because we made it right justified, it's a little bit easier to go in and align these things. All right, and if you want to get rid of your guides, just press the Command, Control, and semicolon key on the keyboard, and then Command, Control, 0 to fit your entire design to the screen. So we're looking pretty good so far, so let's go ahead and collapse that folder. And now we can add another new layer, grab the Type tool, click and type out the word drinks in all caps, press Command, Control, A to highlight the whole text layer there. And now let's go ahead and change this to Buckwheat TC Rough. All right, and I'm going to increase the size of this to about 73.75. All right, and then leave it in that same seafoam green color. Now I'm going to press Command-Control-T to do a free transform, hold the Control key and click on the layer, and then choose Rotate 90 degrees clockwise. Now once you've done that, it's going to be sideways, and you can just kind of line it up with the top and the bottom of this section here. All right, press Return, and then we're just going to move it over a bit to the left. All right, somewhere about there. Okay, and now over here in the Layers palette, I'm just going to move this layer above both of the sections by selecting the Drinks layer and pressing Command-Control and the right bracket. And now with that layer still selected, hold the Shift key and select the Cold Beverages folder. So you should now have this Drinks text and both of these sections selected at the same time. Now press Command-Control-G to put it into a group folder, double-click the Group 1 text, and call this folder Drinks. Now let's go ahead and select this Divider 1 layer, press Command-Control-J to duplicate it, Command-Control and the left bracket to move it down below the original, and then hold the Shift key and tap the down arrow, or just hold the down arrow, until this goes below that first section. All right, so it keeps it nice and organized, just like that, and then we can just rename this layer Divider 2. Okay. Now, once again, let's move the title treatment to the top and then go ahead and save our work again. So now that we have our first whole section set up, let's select the entire Drinks folder and press Command-Control-J to duplicate it, and then Command-Control in the left bracket to move it down below the original folder. Now, press Command-Control-T to do a free transform, click, hold the Shift key, and slide this down below Divider number 2, and then press Return. Now, the first thing we want to change here is this section that says drinks. We're going to change this to say bites. Okay, and we actually want to highlight this layer, come over to our paragraph panel over here and make it left justified, because if this is a shorter word, I want to make sure that it aligns with the top instead of the bottom. All right, so just nudge that down a little bit. And then over here in the character panel, let's go ahead and change the hex value to our tan color, which was CDA767, and then we can go ahead and press OK. Now we can come in here and begin updating these two sections. So we'll just change the folder name to match, so it says bites. And where it says hot beverages, we'll work on that first. So go ahead and turn off the visibility of the cold beverages folder for a moment. And we'll just change this to, instead of saying hot beverages, say hot foods. All right? Sounds better than hot bites. Okay, so now what we can do is come in here into the hot foods folder, and we'll turn off the price list for a moment, and we'll just come in and update each of these menu items. So the first one that we're going to put in here, let's do egg bites, press return, type out veggie omelet, then maybe a Western omelet, and then lastly we can do a custom omelet. All right, now once you've done that, go ahead and turn the price list back on. And this time we're only going to need one price. We don't need a small and a medium because it's just our food. So let's go ahead and update the price here to be, say, $2.95 for an egg bite. For the omelet, let's say $7.50. Okay, the veggie omelet. For the Western omelet, maybe that's a little bit more. Maybe that's $7.95. And then we can make the custom one. Let's go with $6.50. All right, and again, we can come in here, select the first line, hold down the period key to just put in the right number of periods to make it appear as though it's one line. All right, maybe we remove one here, remove a couple from the bottom line, and that's looking pretty good. And now what we want to do is take this small 8-ounce, medium 12-ounce text, and I'm going to move it down below these 4 menu items, because what I want to use this for now is basically to add the toppings that you can add to the custom omelet. So click in here with the type tool, and let's type out choose any 3 toppings. Okay, we'll say spinach, comma, tomato, press return to do a line break, onion, comma, mushroom, comma, peppers, and you'll notice that you cannot see any of the text. That's because the leading is really spaced out. So we need to go and bring that back in. Maybe somewhere around 10 is pretty good. And that way our lines of text are much closer together. All right, so after peppers, let's go avocado, ham, do another line break, bacon, sausage, and turkey sausage. Man, this is making me hungry. I want all of those things at the same time. Okay, so now that we have added those, what we can do is select that text over here in the Layers palette, hold the Shift key, and select the price list. So you've got the toppings, the items, and the price list selected all at the same time. And from here, what we're going to do is hold the Shift key and tap the up arrow maybe three to 5 times, all right, so that we can just move it up a little bit, so there's not such a wide gap here between the section header and the items. All right, and if you'll notice, I need to go ahead and change this to hot foods. All right, come in there, maybe just take out a little bit of space in between each of the letters. All right, and that's pretty good. So now we'll collapse that folder, come over here to the cold beverages folder and turn the visibility for that layer back on. And let's go ahead and maybe change this one to say baked goods. Okay, so press T to get your type tool, change the word cold to baked, and change the word beverages to goods. And what's nice about this is that we don't have to go in and change the color because it's already basically set up for us. So all we need to do is come in and manually adjust the kerning a little bit more, just to get rid of some of that unnecessary and extra space. All right, now again, what we're going to do is first turn off the price list. Okay, and we can type out the baked good items. So let's start with a croissant, an almond croissant, maybe a morning glory muffin, and then we'll do bagels. All right, now turn the price list back on, and we can begin adding our prices for this section. So we'll say maybe $1.95 for a croissant. Seems about right. Maybe $2.50 for the almond croissant, because almonds are so much more expensive. We'll type in $3.50 here, and then for the bagels, we'll say $2.95. All right, and again, we're going to have to add some periods to this first line, all right, just to have that extend across. Remove some from the second line, remove a few from the third line, just so this looks nice and clean. Unfortunately, Photoshop just crapped out on me, so I apologize if this looks a little bit different. It's pretty much did a recovery to right where we were at, but if things shifted around on the screen, that would be why. So that's why I said earlier on, it's always good to save. I think that's the first time that has happened to me while I've been recording. So, you know, every now and then stuff happens. So again, now that we've set this up, I'm going to turn on my guides for a second because I can't remember if this was exactly aligned before Photoshop decided that it didn't want to work today. And I'm just going to delete some of these periods here and then come over, grab my move tool, hold the shift key and the left arrow so we can bring our prices over so that they line up. All right, and then we can go back in, maybe remove a few periods here and there. Okay, and we'll be right back on track. All right, this looks pretty good. And now again, we can select the small and medium text, press Command-Control-T, slide it down here to the bottom. Okay, and now I'm going to select the price and the items, and then hold the shift key and tap the up arrow maybe 4 to 5 times like we did before, just to give it a little bit of space there. Okay, now we can come in here and we're going to change this text to list out the different types of bagels. So we can say regular, whole wheat, everything, sesame, and again, you'll notice that our lines are really far apart. So press Command-Control-A and come over here to the character panel and change the leading to 10. And then we can continue to type out the different types of bagels. So we've got whole wheat, everything, and then maybe we've got a cinnamon raisin bagel as well. Why not? Let's get a little crazy. All right, and now we have our second section basically built out. Just looking at it now, and it seems like we just want to go ahead and grab our divider 2, press Command-Control-J to duplicate it, then Command-Control in the left bracket to move it down, and then we'll press Command-Control-T to do a free transform, click, hold the shift key, and slide this down below the bytes section. And once again, be sure to save so that you don't lose everything like I just did. All right, but it seems like now I'm checking this out again. When I rebooted the program, a few things kind of moved around a little bit. So what we need to do is grab this whole bytes section and move it over to the left, because you can see it's not lining up with our other stuff. So I'm just going to bring in a couple of guides real quick just to make sure that everything is nice and aligned here. All right, that looks better. All right, we actually want to move both of these sections over a little bit to the left. So what I'm going to do is come inside of the drinks group folder here, select the hot beverages folder, and hold the shift key and just tap the left arrow maybe 2 or 3 times. All right, come inside the bytes folder, grab the hot foods section and do the same thing. Okay, and now everything is nice and lined up. So there you go. That's a good little exercise just to show you guys how to kind of, fix things when they inevitably do go wrong. Okay, so that will happen sometimes, and you just have to jump back in. All right, so sorry about that little hiccup, guys. Now, from here, what I can do is grab the bytes, hold the Control-Command key, select the drinks text, and I'm just going to tap that over to the left a little bit, right, just to add a bit of space there. And now we can go ahead and collapse both of those folders. We'll grab our divider 2 copy and just rename that layer divider 3. Now, because this is going to be our last divider here, because we're running out of space, I'm going to select the bottom one, hold the shift key and select divider 1, and and then press Command-Control-G to put it into a group folder. Double-click the layer, and we'll just call this dividers. Now, for our last section, I'm going to grab the bytes folder, press Command-Control-J to duplicate it, then Command-Control and the left bracket to move it down below the original folder, press Command-Control-T to do a free transform, click and hold the Shift key, and slide this down to the bottom. Now, don't worry about the fact that some of our text is running off here because this last section is going to be a little bit shorter. So I'm going to change the name of this bytes copy folder to juices. Come in here and change the bytes, the sideways text, to juices as well. And let's go ahead and change the color. So I'm going to press Command-Control-A to select all. Come over here to my character panel. And now I'm just going to sample some of that color, maybe some of the seafoam green color here, 75C898, and press OK. Now for this section, let's go ahead and turn off the baked goods folder for a moment. And what I'm going to do is change this section to say cold pressed. So we'll have cold pressed juices. All right, let's zoom in here so we can focus on this one area. And we'll change the text here to say cold pressed. Now again, using the type tool, what we want to do is move our cursor in between each of these letters, hold the Alt Option key, and tap the left arrow 2 or 3 times to reduce the amount of space in between these characters, just to tighten that up a bit. Now turn off the price list for a moment just so we can focus on that, and we can actually delete this descriptive text on the very bottom. Now here, for the 2 items that we're going to list out, I'm just going to put orange juice and maybe green juice. Okay, turn the prices back on, and now we only really need 2 of these, so I'm just going to delete these other layers here, the other lines there rather, and we'll just go ahead and change the prices here. So I'll make this $3.95 and the green juice maybe $4.50. Okay, now just move your cursor in front of the 4 and then just hold down the period key to extend that line, and come back up to the first line and just remove a few of the periods like that. Okay, now we can collapse that folder, turn on the baked goods folder, and let's go ahead and change this one to blended juices. All right, and we'll come in here and change the text, the section header, to say blended juices. Okay, and then again, just move your cursor in between each of these letters and hold the Alt Option key and tap the left arrow to reduce the amount of space and manually adjust the kerning. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now again, we can turn off or just delete this text layer here that has the types of bagels that we have. Turn off the price list, and let's just add our 2 blended juices. We'll have a kale smoothie, and then maybe a strawberry banana smoothie. Or apple banana. Yeah. Alright, now we'll turn the prices back on. And again, we can delete these bottom 2 lines. And we'll update the prices for these 2 blended juices. We'll make this one $5.95, and we'll make the second one $6.50. Alright, now we're just going to delete the periods here. Maybe just have a few of them. And then do the same for this first line. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and close that folder, and then let's go ahead and add another new layer. Grab T, press T to get your type tool, click, and now let's go ahead and type out the address. So I'm going to type out 224 Orchard Ave, comma, Brooklyn, NY, well, Brooklyn, comma, NY, 10027. Now press Command-Control-A to select the entire line. Click on the color here and change it to CDA 767. And then let's go ahead and maybe make a few more adjustments. We can make this 9.35 for the size. And let's go ahead and increase the spacing here. So we're going to change the tracking setting here back to 440. Press Enter. And now what we can do is press Command Control T to do a free transform. And I want to center this down here, maybe with our title treatment. So press Command Control 0. All right, to fit that to our screen, I'm just going to collapse a few of those panels there. And if I turn my guides back on, I can kind of see where the title treatment lines up. So I'm just going to kind of move that over a bit, maybe bring a guide down here to the bottom where the S is in juices, and just tap the address down a couple of times there so that everything is nice and neat. And that about does it, guys. We have now completed our menu design for the Last Stand Coffee Shop and Bakery. Now, despite having a few hiccups along the way, I think this came out pretty good, all things considered. Hopefully you guys found this tutorial to be helpful and hopefully learned a few new tips and tricks along the way. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, there's a great variety of typefaces in the Supreme Quality Font Bundle, so be sure to check it out. It's a great value, tons of typefaces that you guys can use to upgrade your font library right now, so be sure to check that out. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Eric Vasquez here with Design Cuts, and we'll see you next time.